Welcome everyone to my first new lesson of this year. For today I prepare a game between a very young master. His name is Prasanna Rao. He's only 2400, but he's a very talented player from India. The game was against Grandmaster Kotronias from Greece. Kotronias is a very well-known grandmaster, specifically strong in the theory of the openings, and the game took place in the second round of the Hastings tournament. Okay, let's get to the game. It was a canned variation of the Sicilian. After a6, knight c3, of course. The most popular option here is bishop d3 or even c4, but of course knight c3 is the classical move. Nothing wrong with this. Queen c7, one of the many moves that black has. Other moves are knight c6 or b5. Even d6 is playable. Okay, but queen c7 keeps things in Kang style. Bishop e2, trying to go for the Schwenningen type of positions with kingside castle. Another ideas are bishop d3 or g3. Bishop e3 is not a very good move here because of bishop b4. Okay, but bishop e2 is also a main line, and now black plays b5, keeping things in Kang territory. Why I say this? Because black can easily transpose to a type of Najdorf or Schwenningen variation by playing knight f6 followed by d6, or he can go for the Taimanov with knight c6. So black has a wide range of options at this point. And then there is b5, which is a very natural move, and in my opinion is quite good variation for black. Castle, and now bishop b7. Okay, with the threat of b4. Rook e1, and now black plays knight c6. This is the move recommended by the theory. Taking the e4 pawn, as usual, is risky. Black has to watch out for knight d5 after b4. Alright, so knight c6, knight takes on c6, and now d takes on c6 is the right way to recapture. Bishop takes on c6 allows white to to still think about playing knight d5 in the future. So d takes c6, and now white has to prevent black from playing e6, e5. That's the idea here. Black is threatening e5, getting total equality in the symmetric type of position, symmetric pawn structure, but also he has good control over the center. So the main move for white here is just e5, also freeing the e4 square for the knight. Now black, before developing, he should play rook d8. Otherwise, other moves like knight e7 allow white to play bishop d3, and the queen can go to g4 or h5. So rook d8 forces bishop d3, and now c5 with the threat of c4. Black is on his way to equalizing. I find this variation fairly good for black. Possibly equal, but I don't think it brings anything for white. Now white went queen e2. It's a normal move with the idea of trading the light square bishops with bishop e4. Another move is queen h5, which has been tried, but as you can see, after c4, bishop e4, and now very precise from black, bishop b4. The idea is to get that knight on c3 under control, so it cannot go to e4 and take advantage of that square and the pawn on e5, which controls f6, d6. So at some point black is willing to give away the dark square bishop for the knight. After queen g4, knight e7. Of course, white cannot take on g7 because of rook g8, and bishop takes on c3 and bishop takes on e4. That would be winning. So bishop g5, ideas of bishop f6 after castle. Now h5, queen f3, bishop takes e3, attacking the rook on e1, so there is no chance for bishop b7. Queen takes, bishop takes on e4, rook takes, and now black has a little weak king side because of the pawn on h5 and the dark squares, but he also has a good knight that can sit on the squares like f5 or d5. He only needs to unpin with rook d5, a4, and now just castle, and queen f3. Both players agreed to draw here, and it seems reasonable because after, I don't know, knight g6, white has to take on h5 and allow black to take the e5 pawn. This is a game by Areschenko with the white pieces and Avruk with black. I think black has an easy game already. So, but probably about equal. Okay, so queen h5 didn't offer much for Areschenko in that game, and there is this other possibility of queen e2. Now knight e7, bishop g5, h6, and now bishop h4, the first new move of this of the game. Previously queen h5 had been played, but after a move like rook d4, this is a very important resource in the line. The rook goes to d4, controlling the 4th rank, and the idea is c4 and b4 all together. So bishop e3. At this point the threat is h takes on g5, and when the queen takes on h8, then rook h4 gets the queen on h8 in trouble. So bishop e3, now rook d7, bishop f4, c4, bishop e4, and then b4 with good play for black. Black will trade the light square bishops and move his knight to d5 with a good position, very solid and very difficult for white to break through. That game continued with knight d1, knight d5, and now bishop c5. You can see black is very active here. c3, just castle, c takes on b4, bishop takes on b4, and at this point black is already better with a very easy play, rook f d8, and so on, c4, c3, for example. And white is under a little pressure here with the knight on d1, lacks coordination in general. All the pieces are misplaced. Okay, but this kid plays bishop h4 and Cotronias plays g5, a very provocative move in his style, but I don't like the move. It weakens too much the dark squares, especially f6, and I don't see exactly what it does. I think Cotronias overestimates his position. I have to say that in this variation he doesn't have a good success so far. He has lost several games with this, and it seems like he's not used to this type of positions. In my opinion, just rook d4 offers a good play for black. And okay, bishop g3, now knight c6, thinking about continuing with c4 and bishop b4, bishop c5, even just bishop e7 and kingside castle with good play in general. Now if a4, then c4, bishop e4, and now b4, and black has excellent play. For example, let's examine this the two retreats that the knight has. First, knight b1, thinking about knight d2 or even c3 and taking the c4 pawn. Black has a good resource here, c3. It chose the knight on b1, it doesn't allow it to go to d2, and after takes on c3, takes. Of course, white cannot take because of bishop b4, with very good play already. f3 defends the bishop on e4 and is with the idea of bishop f2, but after rook d7, white still cannot take on c3, and black is going to continue with knight d4, bishop c5 or bishop b4 with very good play. So this is knight b1. Other option is knight d1, but after knight a5 supports c4 pawn, bishop takes b7, queen takes. Now you can see that the bishop on g3 is nothing special. Also the knight on d1 needs a new location. For example, f3, bishop e7, knight f2, castle, knight e4, finally, but rook d8, and black is still better. He controls the file, and white should always take care of his a4 pawn. For example, on a move like knight d6, queen c6 keeps the rook on a1, and black can eventually trade the knight on d6, let's say with knight b7, something like that. So there is no real control from white here. Okay, but rook d4 is very typical. That's why I think that Cotronias is not very familiar with variation in general, because it's the main, well, it's not the established theory, but it's the main idea of rook d8 to activate the rook on the 5th rank. So Cotronias played g5, bishop g3, and now h5. Now this move is I think it's risky. For example, it still wasn't too late to play something like bishop g7 after rook a d1, castle. Black is still doing fine here. On a move like knight e4, I have to say things like h4 don't work, because after c4 white is forced to trade the light square bishop, but then b4. This is the idea. Black doesn't allow the white knight to pass through e4, so the knight can never go to the king side. And after knight a4, if bishop b7, b takes on c3, and it's taking on b2. So after knight a4, bishop takes, queen takes, and now knight f5. You can see that black has a very strong knight on f5. g3 is in danger. Black is probably better here. He has ideas of trading the rooks on d1, take on g3, and win the e5 pawn with a very powerful bishop and full control over the dark squares. So h4 is too optimistic in this position. It would be better to play knight e4, and then again knight f5, knight f6 check, nothing better, bishop takes, black eliminates the dark square bishop of white, and after takes, queen c6 with good counterplay. There is no way that white can organize an attack on the king side, because first he must take care of the g2 mate threat. So after f3, c4, you can see that the white queen has no future anymore. Bishop e4 check, trace everything with an equal position, completely equal. This was a much better way to play than h5, which is typical to harass the bishop on g3, but I think that the weakness, I remember when I was a kid, I read a book by I think it was Yudovich, book about Kasparov, and there was a chapter that said the title was the principles of the opening are unbreakable, I think, something like that. it is true. You can see here a very strong grandmaster who is playing very optimistic on the king side, delaying the king side development and also keeping the king in the center for no reason at all. I mean, white is not going to lose the bishop on g3, so everything looks very artificial from black. But still, it's a very strong player, so how to refute? Of course, h3 has to be played. Now, black went c4, being consequent with his plan. Bishop g7 doesn't make more sense now, since after rook d1, white keeps an advantage. Black cannot castle anymore because of the pawn on h5, and the threat of bishop e4, and trading the bishops will leave black in a very difficult position. Also, black cannot even think about moves like knight f5, because after bishop takes on f5, e takes on f5, if he's allowed one more move, he will play queen c6 with good counterplay. But of course, white will advance the pawn to e6, opening the position. Still, after queen c6, not everything is lost, but white can play f4, f takes, and now king d7 would be the only move, because king f7 allows rook b6, threatening the bishop, taking on g5, and f takes g5, rook f6 ideas. Black is simply lost, I think. King d7 is slightly better, but after rook g6, idea of rook d1 and knight d5 perhaps, white still is slightly better. Of course, this is not the position you want, so black goes c4, the only reasonable move. But after the forced bishop e4, knight c6, now white plays rook a d1, and his position is already better. I mean, this main problem is that the black king is stuck in the center and with no prospects of being safer any moment. So now black went bishop c5. You can see that black hasn't black is playing like he's attacking white, very active moves. The bishop is perhaps now black is thinking about g4 and h4, but the truth is that if you are not developed, it's very unlikely that an attack like this might work. And of course, black is developed well, but the main problem is that the rook on h8 is not playing, the king is weak in the center, and his king side is full of holes. The pawn on h5 is always a problem. The square e4 will be useful for the knight on c3, and once the knight gets to c3, then f6 and d6 are very weak squares. Perhaps bishop e7 was a little better, but after queen f3, idea of taking on d8, rook takes d1, rook takes h4, bishop h2, still black is playing down a rook. I mean, the rook on h8 will not get into play anytime soon, but probably that's the better option. Bishop c5 was played in the game, and now queen f3, thinking about queen f6 on the next move and start taking pawns. Now black went rook h6, perhaps the best defense. Let's examine other moves like h4, and now bishop h2. White shouldn't play queen f6 because after rook g8, bishop h2, rook takes, and now knight d4, black gets a good counterplay. You can see that the main idea is that here black blockades the d file, and also after the trade on b7, the queen controls the square e4, so white doesn't achieve anything. He cannot get the knight into play, and also he cannot use the rook on the open d file. That's why black survives in this variation. But first bishop h2, and black must do something. So takes on d1, rook takes, bishop e7, controlling the square f6. But now white would break with a very powerful move that we got a lot to learn from. Not easy to spot, but after some minutes of thinking you can see it. Rook d6, very strong move, attacking the knight on c6, and also after the forced move bishop takes d6, e takes d6, the pawn on d6 becomes very powerful, and now white has queen f6 on the next move. For example, queen d7 only move to support the knight, and now queen f6. If rook g8, now white has another blow here in the position. Knight d5, threatening knight c7. For example, if queen d8, knight c7, and after king d7 just take on f7 and take on e6, absolutely winning. If he takes, then bishop f5, and the queen cannot move because of d7, king f8, bishop d6, perhaps. Just winning, yeah. So what to do? Bishop c8, I guess, but this is just lost. f4, for example. It would be better to play rook f8, so defense f7, but still this idea works. Knight d5, queen d8, knight c7, king d7, queen g7, king c8, and now knight takes on a6. Knight b8, knight takes b8, bishop takes on a4, d7, the knight on b8 is protected, and queen f7 with a winning advantage to white again. The pawn on d7 is basically too strong, and it's just an exchange, it's not the end of the war. Here white has all the fun. So these are nice lines of what could happen if black misplays. So rook a6 is a better defense, but still not sufficient. Now white found a very strong move. That move is h4. Of course, taking on h4 after bishop takes, the bishop goes with great activity on that diagonal. So g4, and the idea is that black loses control over the f4 square, and now white can use it for the queen, attacking the rook on a6 and also infiltrating through g5. Also strong was rook takes d8. If king takes d8, queen f4, bishop f8, the only way to keep the f6 square under control. Now a4, softening up the queen side, b4, and now knight b1. And okay, here black is clearly worse again. He has to deal with the threat of knight d2 and knight c4. That's not easy. Knight takes is the best move, but still after queen f4, rook h8, queen f6, rook f8, bishop b7, knight takes b7, and now queen takes queen h6, followed by queen h5. White would be winning. So rook d8 was an easy path to advantage too. But of course nothing is wrong with queen f4. Rook h8, and now this young kid found a winning idea. Rook d6. That move is really strong, especially now with the rook on e1, that the continuation with knight d5 will be even stronger than before. For example, after bishop takes on d6, it takes queen d7, Now knight d5 with threats like knight f6, knight c7, even knight b6. So black cannot take, so he plays rook f8, queen h6, threatening to, well, basically to take on h5, b4, the move played by Cotronias. Rook d7 perhaps was better, but still, after queen h5, black is still lost. Cotronias plays active, he plays b4, but he meets an unpleasant surprise. Rook takes on e6. That's a real nightmare during a game, that your opponent is allowed to use those squares that you are defending so easily. White plays rook d6, black cannot take, and then immediately rook takes on e6, another pawn, and black cannot recapture, because after f takes on e6, queen takes on e6, the only move is queen e7 and bishop g6, rook f7, bishop takes, king f8, and now knight e4. Black is completely lost. Queen takes, bishop takes, the bishop on c5 is attacked, the pawn on c4 too. The position is absolutely lost. Okay, so Cotrone had to play knight e7, and again another unpleasant move, rook takes on e7. There are very strong moves by the rook, rook d6, rook takes on e6, and then rook takes on e7. There is no stop. After queen takes on e7, bishop b7. Black has no time to eliminate the knight on c3. As you can see, b takes on c3 allows white to play bishop c6 check, rook d7 only move, and now e6, opening the e file, and with terrible pins, the e and the rook on d7 as well. So black is forced to take the bishop on b7, and now knight e4 with threats like knight d6, well, knight takes on c5 of course, and knight f6 too. Cotronias had to play queen b6, it's the only move. Bishop e7 allows knight d6 check, and after bishop takes, e takes, king d7 the only move, and then rook e7 winning. So queen b6. Okay, now black is offering the trade of queens, but the white play here another attacking move, beautiful, e6, opening the e file completely. Also very strong and much more pretty was knight d6, bishop takes, e takes e6 with check, king d7, and now rook e7. Now if king c8, white plays d7 check, king b7 is the only move supporting the queen on b6, and now white has queen takes on f8, rook takes, and d8 with check, winning the game. Very, very nice combination. The funny thing is that after rook e7, king c6, d7 transposes to the same thing. The only move is king b7, and then queen takes on f8 and d8. But the move e6 is also very unpleasant for black. Bishop d4, perhaps the only defense after, well, f takes on e6, knight takes on c5 wins on the spot, and queen takes on e6, just knight f6 and queen g5 for example, attacking the bishop on c5 and giving a discovered check. That would be just one way to win, of course. Cotronias plays bishop d4, knight f6 check, king e7. Very sad to play this with black, but it's forced. After bishop takes on f6, queen takes on f6, black can resign with a clear conscience, since he has no moves. King e7, he takes on f7 check, king takes on f7, and now queen h5, and black resigns. Is mate in 2 after king g7, rook e7, king f6, queen g5, mate. Okay, very good game by this young master. His name is Prasanna Rao, like I said, from India. And okay, for Cotronias it was a nightmare in second round of the tournament to have a game like this. I hope you enjoyed this game as much as I did. I think from this middle game we can learn a lot of things. There are lots of ideas. The variations and the combination that I just showed are just really impressive that they exist in such positions that very often we cannot even think of such moves. But okay, I hope you learn, and I hope you enjoy these videos. Okay everybody, thanks for watching, and see you again next week with a new lesson.